Peace and welcome to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Today we got a great show for you folks. First, let's talk about the fact that we have officially entered the third year of this pandemic. The question I'm asking is, how are you feeling? We're going to talk to Dr. Crystal Watkins, Chief of Psychiatry for MedStar Harbor Hospital, to break it down for us of how we can move forward during this time. Also, let's talk about a new poll says that Americans believe that President Biden will not run again. Guess what? President Biden says he is running again. We'll have that conversation. And the Black population in the country is growing, not in big cities, but in small cities. So I'm just asking, are small cities the key to getting social and racial justice in this country for Black and marginalized communities? We'll have that conversation. Plus, I got trends posted during the most and a whole lot more. So stay with us. You're tuned into the culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Welcome to the show, folks. I'm so excited about what we got in store for you today. Oh my gosh, we got a lot of great conversations. Of course, I got my Tuesday culture crew that's going to be joining me in a few moments. We're going to be joined by Iman Heath and Lise Winnie, who are going to be joining us. But very excited about the topics that we have planned out for you this afternoon, folks. So let's jump right into it. My first conversation is a conversation that I've been waiting to have. And I've just been saying, okay, let me find the right moment. And then guess what? March 2022 came and I was like, yep, this is the right moment. And that conversation is simply about how are we doing as we enter, get this, folks, the third year of the COVID pandemic. Can you believe that? I mean, I want you to really take a moment to just think this thing through. 3 years. We already covered 2 years, but we entered a third year of the pandemic. And some people have said that this may be the year of the endemic. Well, let me check in. I think we need to do a quick, what do they say, wellness check? You know how police officers come to your door and just to do a wellness check? Well, let's do a little wellness check today. And we're going to do it with an expert to give us some insight about what we should expect and how we should handle this third year of a pandemic. We're going to be let's check in now with Dr. Crystal Watkins, who serves as the Chief of Psychiatry for MedStar Harbor Hospital here in Baltimore. And I'm very, very excited and happy to have her with us this afternoon. Dr. Watkins, thank you so much for your time today. How are you?
Hi, good afternoon. It's so good to see you, Mr. Muhammad, and just a pleasure to be on your show. So
Absolutely.
You always impart the knowledge to the community. So.
I'm trying to, Doc. I'm trying. All right, Doc, first and foremost, thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedule. And folks, I want to also make sure that we have our culture crew, Lise Winnie, Iman Heath. They'll be joining us in a moment. But just a quick conversation I think that we needed to have, Doc, because I know that just a few days ago, it was like I guess we can say anniversary of when the World Health Organization officially declared COVID-19 to be a pandemic. It just happened a few days ago. And I don't know about anybody else, but I feel like my life was in a blur for the past 2 years. That I felt like at this point, I'm like 2020. You know, I know many people say, oh, 2020 was the worst year. And then 2021. I don't even remember 2020 sometimes. So I'm thinking to myself, how do we mentally, emotionally, how do we make sure that our minds are in the best place as possible as we enter this third year?
Well, I think part of it is just this kind of just disbelief that we have been going through this for almost, 2.5, 3 years. And I remember this time of the year because it's my son's birthday, and then suddenly remembering having to cancel his birthday party, and then the school's closing. And it just seems like such, it seems like just yesterday, but a lot of things have been in a blur and a fog. I was reading an article and it was saying, remember a time when Delta was just an airline and Omicron was an ancient god. And so now we talk about Delta, Omicron, all of these different things when we're talking about the COVID pandemic. And as a psychiatrist, I can say it's not just from a patient perspective, but from a personal perspective, I think we're all tired of the pandemic. And so, like anything else, we have been surviving and striving and kind of living day by day, thinking that, next month it's going to be over. Next week it's going to be over. Next year it's going to be over. And we still seem to be in the middle of it.
So is that the right approach that we should mentally have, always kind of looking for the finish line to this pandemic, or should we emotionally and mentally just kind of prepare ourselves to say, quote unquote, we're going to live with COVID-19 from this point on?
Right. I think the key thing is, I think in the beginning, because I think part of anything coping with something that has to do with your mental health is the fear of the unknown. And there were so many unknowns. I think we are resilient people and we know a little bit more about the virus. We now have different ways to combat it now than we did, back in 2020. We have treatments, we have vaccines. We have different protocols in place that we know to prevent the virus. And so I think that kind of is a healthy way of managing and coping things. I think knowledge and facts really help us to deal with and manage feelings. And I think it's a matter of balancing both. So exactly.
No, I apologize for interrupting, and I like that point that you're making, that managing feelings. And I feel like I know people, because of the time of year, it's spring, the weather's gotten warmer, mask mandates have loosened, restrictions have loosened, so people are starting to feel a little bit more upbeat about, and I would say optimistic about the year, because things are starting to feel a little bit more, quote unquote, pre-2020.
Right.
But then you still get this messaging. I saw that Pfizer is looking to ask the government for another authorization of more booster shots. I saw that the president said we're not out the woods yet. So it's like, we're getting kind of like this mixed message, like our minds and our bodies are trying to adjust, but then at the same time you have these outside sources that are saying, hey, this thing is not over. Hey, don't enjoy yourself too much. We might be hit with another variant soon. So how do we reconcile those two mindsets?
Right. I think the key thing is having people like you to really educate the community and talk about some of these different things about the virus and have the facts. And so we have that knowledge base to really help us to make determined decisions. I think throughout the pandemic, one of the things I love to tell my patients and my family is to actually stay grounded and try to go about life as normally as you can. So enjoying those things that you would normally enjoy, and if you had to modify them, you can. And we've seen this. Again, I deal in resilience, and I think we're resilient people. Whether it's the Zoom birthday party or the Zoom meetings or the Zoom family reunions or even the Zoom dinners, that people have been able to come up in ways to celebrate and still be a part of each other, and which kind of counteracts that being cooped up, not having enough supplies, not being around other people, and then, and really kind of relying and resting on our fear. So again, having that balance. And I think as we're moving forward, one good thing is because of so many of the different medical interventions and because we've been working together as a community to combat the virus, we now know this year in Maryland, we have some of the lowest infectivity rates that we've had since the pandemic. So we saw this huge surge in the number of cases, unprecedented in January. But now as a result of that, we now have very, very few cases, which is very helpful. So
that is awesome to hear. Folks, as we're talking to Dr. Crystal Watkins, who serves as the Chief of Psychiatry for MedStar Harbor Hospital, we also want to bring in our culture crew member, Lise Winnie. Lise, thank you again for showing up today. How are you this afternoon, Lise?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Also, we're joined by Iman Heath. Lise is the host of Millennials Anonymous podcast, and Iman is actually an activist and an entrepreneur. Iman, good to see you again. We got you on mute, Iman. Oh my gosh. It's all right.
Yeah,
It's
per
all right.
usual.
It's
Hey,
the
y'all.
third year of the pandemic. It's all good. So certain things.
Good to join y'all.
All right. So Elise, as we're hearing from Dr. Watkins saying, look, you just take your time, just slowly kind of reacclimate yourself back into the quote unquote pre-2020, but just be mindful that things could possibly change. What's going through your mind and how we should move forward on this third year? And I'm just talking about mentally, emotionally. What's going through your mind for you?
I mean, I have to agree with the expert. I mean, all I can speak for is myself, is that I'm trying to live life as normally as possible, because I cannot constantly live in fear, which I'm not going to lie to you. In the beginning of it, I was like, panicked. It was doomsday 2000. I wish I would have made like a bunker. Like, I was full on locked in panic mode, but you can't live like that. So my thing is trying to live as normally as possible, even with having young kids, because it's really hard when you have young kids. I have a child that started school for the first time during the pandemic. So she's never been to school without masks and restrictions. And so trying to navigate that with children and explaining to them this is not going to last forever. I'm hopeful, because we've gone through the Spanish flu of 1819, and that took about 18 months, and eventually that subsided. So I'm hopeful.
You're hopeful. You're like, I'm hopeful. So I hear you. I definitely agree. And Doc, when we're talking about, and I think Lisa brings up an excellent point, when you're talking about getting your children, younger members of the family, to familiar, like, there are schools that are saying, hey, we're going to start taking masks off for the second half of the year. What would your recommendations be for children that are and parents that are like, what's going on? Like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, I can't breathe out in public. No.
Well, I think the first thing is, with anything else, we have to acknowledge our feelings. This has been a very stressful 2 years. And then we keep, we're treading water, and we keep thinking we're going to come up for air. And then somehow something kind of keeps pushing us back underneath the surface. And then we can, continue to try to adjust. So I think just acknowledging that this has been a fearful time. People have been angry because they weren't able to, take their kid to school for the first day or attend that graduation. People have been sad because they haven't been able to go to proper funerals and homegoing services. And people are still worried because every time the finish line keeps getting moved, we think that we're at the end of the pandemic, and then it gets getting moved. And then sometimes you hear all of these different things and you just feel numb and frustrated.
Yeah.
Those are normal feelings, and just acknowledging those feelings and knowing that you're not alone, that there's so many people, many of us, not here in Maryland, not just across the United States, but across the world, that are feeling those same types of things. And then learning to kind of cope with those stressors and cope with those feelings by balancing them with other fun things. I think like what Lisa said, going out and just trying to live life to the fullest. If you haven't been out to dinner in 2 years, now might be the nice time. You have that beautiful day, go outside, find a nice outside setting, and have that nice romantic dinner or that girls' night out. And again, starting to slowly get yourself back into a normal routine where you're countering those feelings of fear that we've all had at some point in time. And I think, and the thing is, it's not just fear for ourselves, because the way the statistics work, if you're a young, healthy person, if you've gotten those vaccines, you're at a very low risk of contracting the virus. And if you do get the virus, then you're going to have mild or minimal symptoms. But we worry about our children. We worry about our grandparents and our parents who are older or have diabetes or some of those other illnesses, or our children who may not be vaccinated, or who we may not feel comfortable vaccinating and sending them to school. And that mask and that hand sanitizer has been a protective factor. And now we've been told for 2 years, keep that close at bay. And now we're saying we can take that off. What I do say, follow the science. So if they're saying the reason why we're saying we no longer need masks is because of the infectivity rate of the virus is decreasing. Yeah. People are vaccinated, and if one person gets vaccinated, that protects a lot of us. And also people have had the virus. And so we now have this herd immunity that we've we were trying to create kind of like the Spanish flu. It took us 18 months. So we're kind of getting to that point where our bodies and our brains are becoming resilient to the virus, and we're going to be able to fight back. And again, eventually be able to talk about this in a historic factor, like we do about polio, or like we talk about the Spanish flu.
And Doc, when you're talking about your feelings around certain things, certain laws, certain restrictions, certain any element of this pandemic, what's the best and most healthy way to do that? Because it's one thing to go on social media and just go full blown rant on everything, right? But then it's another thing to sit down with a therapist, a professional, and say, hey, this is what I've been feeling. My family has undergone these challenges during these past, few months or couple of years. How do we have those conversations in a very healthy way, whether it's with our family or friends?
Right. So I always like to talk about things in threes. And I think the first thing is to take a break. Take a break from watching the television, reading the news, listening to social media. I think sometimes when our brain gets flooded, then I think I always say our head is connected to our body. And so being able to kind of filter what we take in mentally and not overload our system. So taking a break from that. So I would say whether it's limiting the news to just a couple times a day, turning off the phone. I think a lot of us, we're climbing in the bed and then we're still looking at social media. Turn that phone off. As a matter of fact, take it out of your room, put it in a different room so you can actually get some good sleep, reducing your computer time. So again, taking a break. Number two is taking care of your body. So whether it's when you feel that stress and that anger or that frustration or that uncertainty overwhelming you, just taking some deep breaths. And those deep cleansing breaths, the body can't be stressed and anxious and relaxed at the same time. And so just by taking those deep breaths in, that helps. Exercise helps, and plenty of sleep. So taking care of your body. And then the third thing is actually connecting with others. So why is the pandemic, why has it impacted us so much? Because we're social beings. We take comfort in being around other people. We're social animals. And so when we're not able to interact with our friends and our family, or even, get up and go to work or go to church, then it does something to us. So being able to talk with people, again, like I said, sharing your feelings, because often we think we're the only one who's been scared. But I think if you have anyone that's had a conversation about COVID can say, I can exactly understand where you're coming from. So being able to talk to people. So taking breaks, taking care of your body, and being able to reconnect with your community if you haven't so far.
Iman, it sounds like, those are three very practical steps that we can take to make sure that our minds are right as we kind of go into this third year. What sticks out the most for you?
Doing happy things. That's what sticks out the most. Those first 8 months of being stuck in the house, when I say drove me crazy, it was like I have to get outdoors, especially when it gets warm outside. We feel better. I know I do. Warmer weather, I'm in a much better mood, much better mindset. So the biggest thing for me is being able to still do those fun activities. Maybe not always go to a restaurant. Maybe not always, go to the movies or something, but just be literally outdoors. We can have picnics. We can go to the park. We can go sit and watch the river flow. It doesn't matter. Just get outside. But like she said, just having that peace. Don't forget that peace, and don't drive yourself so crazy, especially with us. They are now alleviating the mandate to have face masks on. I think that's going to freak a lot of people out, especially elders. So it's good to see it's interesting to see what this mix is going to be. But biggest thing, stick to your peace. Find your peace, hold on to it, and stick to it. And don't forget to get outside, do more things.
I like that. And Doc, when you're talking about finding your peace, that means that people really have to take a pause and then go inward to look at themselves and say, okay, I was kind of off balance over these past few months. Now I have to find my balance. I have to get my rhythm. And I know that could be a struggle for some people to kind of get back into the rhythm of things. Even if it's not pre-2020, the fact is that your mind is still joggled. Your mind is still thinking everything else that has already happened and is not able to make a move to the next thing. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Right. I think that's an important point. I think I try to find the silver lining in sometimes when we have tragedy. So I always say triumph over tragedy. And one thing really is if we haven't learned anything from the pandemic, it's just to value life and know that tomorrow is not promised. And so some of these small arguments that we get into, petty disagreements, it really should put things in perspective and say, sometimes we dwell on things that really are irrelevant and really not even worth our time. And so then bringing yourself inward. So whether it's if you're a person who likes to pray or meditate or just turn off the lights, close your eyes and have 2 minutes of quiet time. Sometimes being grounded and centered and giving your mind that time to just relax and disconnect from the hustle and bustle and chaos of the world. I think that is just so important. And hopefully one thing the pandemic has allowed us to do is because we haven't been able to go to work and school as much, hopefully if you have that family unit or that friendship community or that community, you've been able to make some new connections with people that you might not have seen before. I know we've seen that in our neighborhood, just getting to know the neighbors. We were concerned about some of our older neighbors and checking on them, going to the grocery store for them, not able to go to church. And so having, worship services in the center of the community. So little things like that. So again, focusing on, kind of taking a few minutes of yourself to just take a break and have some quiet time, meditate, pray, or just have fun. Some people do it the other way. Some people like to go out and have a great party and have fun and enjoy yourself. But again, just kind of appreciating the moment and appreciating the limited time we have on this earth and limited time we have with each other.
And I understand you saying that, Doc, because I feel like there have been I feel like there are two big places that people have dealt with this pandemic. It's either out of fear or out of anger. And Lise, when we're talking about, the impact of this thing, when you're coming from a place of fear, that's fear can restrict you and it can disable you. And at the same time, it can make you do irrational things or have irrational thoughts. Same thing with anger, that if it's uncontrolled, you start going off on everybody. Right. You know what I mean? People that don't deserve that wrath to come from you. How have you been able to find a balance or to try to walk that fine line to not get into a place of being super scared or super angry?
Right. And I think one of the things, like I said, has been being able to talk to friends and family. And I'm a mother myself. I'm actually a mother of 4. And so, I have my own fears and my fears for my children, and being able to talk to them and just making sure that they're okay.
Yeah.
And then again, having some fun. I love music. I love to dance. And so one of the things that we really enjoyed is getting together with our friends and family that we usually get together and having like our own TikTok dance off. Or movie night.
Wait a minute, hold on, Doc. Let me find out Dr. Watkins on damn TikTok. I'll like your post, Doc. I'll give you a little extra boost.
And then playing fun games. Like I learned how to use Kahoot, and then we did an online black card revoked, and just having a good laugh. So humor, music, fun, all of those things are just really healthy. And like I said, your head is connected to your body. So if you don't do those things to release that stress, release that anger, and let go, you will feel it physically. You will have those stomach pains. You'll have those body aches and those back aches. You'll start to have those heart palpitations. Your blood sugar will go up. Your blood pressure will go up. And so it's always about that balance. And so when we have these, again, triumph over tragedies, when our mind is tested, when our body's tested, we have these things built in for us to be resilient, but we have to make sure we tap into those things in order to be able to release that negative energy.
Absolutely. Lise, what's your take on that?
I mean, I agree as well. When you're fearful, you can't do anything, which in the beginning of the pandemic, I'm not going to lie to you, I was very, very fearful. And it's amazing that we're still going through this to this day. That's why I call this new strain I call it unicorn because it's unbelievable that we're still going through this to this day.
Talk about it.
But I agree. Like for me, it's just a person that suffers with anxiety. I have to make sure that I am in a good space because I can't help anyone if I am not mentally in a good space. So making sure, just like Dr. Watkins said, that you are taking time with your family and playing games and going outside. And those are the things that I found that helped me the most. I would be interested to know if Dr. Watkins has seen any changes like in psychiatry. Have they noticed any changes in human behavior during the time of this pandemic or anything that has changed?
Absolutely. Great question.
No, that's an excellent question, and two things that we've seen. So if you look at the statistics, so the rates of anxiety and depression across the country, it used to be around 10 to 12%, have gone up to as high as 28 to 35%. I have been the busiest now that I've been practicing for over 15 years. It's the busiest I've ever been in my entire life. So many people are suffering. And what would happen normally is that you'd have your other community to maybe be able to talk about some of those things. But some of us have been so isolated that only people we have to turn to are the psychiatrists and the psychologists and our clergy people, which I'm really happy to help. But I think it's also brought about more of an awareness of mental health. I think in our communities, there's a stigma when people have depression or anxiety. We believe that there's some kind of broken part there. But we don't stigmatize people when they have high blood pressure or diabetes. And so we shouldn't do the same thing when they have an anxiety disorder or they feel isolated or have depression. And so I'm just so really just thankful that people are now thinking about their mental health as much as they have their physical health.
Yeah.
But then also so the other thing that they're looking at too are patients that have what they call long haulers. So for many people that have gotten vaccinated, they have actually kind of been able to avoid the really serious side effects of COVID-19. There are a large group of patients, I'm in the hospital today, that have never been vaccinated. And those are the ones that we unfortunately still see in the ICU, that we still see on the ventilators, and that are high risk for what we call long haul syndrome. So even after you've been treated and cured of COVID, people still have problems with breathing. They have problems with walking, thinking, memory. They still lose their smell and taste. And so, so you have that new physical illness that then you have other people that are still dealing with months and years after they've contracted the COVID virus. So I think, whether it's, whether COVID brings you to think about, seeing a mental health professional, or whether it's stress from a job or job changes or physical, emotional health, I think it's always good to see a professional because we're very objective. We don't judge. And so sometimes it's just good to vent and get out whatever frustration or anger or sadness that you have, and then be able to think about some ways that you can manage things. And again, sometimes you can, even though we can be our own professional and we might be the one in the family giving advice to everyone else. When you're the person that everyone leans on, if people are leaning on you too much, then you're going to fall over. So it's always good to make sure you have that outlet too.
Wait a minute, Doc. You might just gave a quotable for the day. When people lean on you too much, you're going to fall over.
Yeah.
Lord.
Get
Look, hey, Doc, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. I know that this conversation is very important, and we're going to have more discussions like this because as much as we talk about the facts and the numbers, and there have been a number of new cases in China, 5,200 new cases have come up over the past 24 hours. My thinking is, where is our heads at? How are we feeling? Where are we with our heart, mind, and spirit? Because, that's going to be the real resistance against everything else. That if we're not in a right headspace, then everything else is going to fall apart. And so, I think that we have to do these regular wellness checks, especially now, because things can go back to what it was in 2020 and 2021. And that could be a real hard transition and a big struggle for a lot of people, including ourselves here. So, I appreciate your time in talking to us about the toll that this thing can play, but most importantly, giving us some insight and some recommendations on how we can deal with it. So thank you so much for your time, Doc.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate your wonderful panel and your show. So
thank you.
Wonderful talking with you all.
You too. You too. Thank you so much. Dr. Crystal Watkins, Chief of Psychiatry for MedStar Harbor Hospital. Folks, we're going to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's talk about something else that's taking a toll, how people think that the president won't run for re-election come 2024. Guess what? He said he's gearing up. We'll have that conversation. So stay with us. A lot to get to in the next 30 of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Hey, Black, I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, it looks like this is going to be a challenging year for President Biden. President Biden has entered this year's midterm election with roughly half of Americans doubting he will seek re-election for 2024. However, the country's oldest president is saying that he will seek re-election come 2024. Yeah. At 79 years old, President Biden being
79?
Yes, 7. we might as well bring the culture crew back in.
He completely caught me off guard. Don't tell. I knew he was in his 70s.
He's 79 years old.
Yeah.
Yes, he's 79 years old. So folks are saying, there was a new poll that came out from the Wall Street Journal. And let me just share with you just a little bit of the data that the report said. It said that 52% of Americans don't think Mr. Biden will run for re-election in 2 years, while 29% do expect him to pursue a second term. 19% are undecided about his future. Among Democrats, 41% said they think Mr. Biden will run again, while 32% said they didn't think he would. The poll found 26% of those Democrats unsure. One of the things, if you look through those numbers, folks, you do not see a huge consensus, Lisa and Iman, for the president to run again. And the word is coming from the White House and his administration is that he's gearing up, he's getting ready, but he won't make a final decision until after this November's midterm election. What's your take on this, Lise? When you look at it, well, let me start with Iman since she don't know.
Listen,
Iman didn't realize how old the president was.
I didn't realize 79. Now, Brandon understood he was older.
No, I get you, Iman. I get you.
He was the oldest, but 79, that's 80. That is 80. You are 80 years old.
Actually, it's 79. It's actually 79.
Roger, that's 80. He is a great grandfather. That is 80. I honestly think it's for him gearing up to be reelected. I think besides age, because that blew me out the waters. If he changes the narrative to like Joe the hero, then I think he will run again. If he somehow makes a immediate U-turn to this, what I see, a recession coming, if he's able to turn this around within his next years of being in office, then I think he will run again. But he has to come with his chest stuck out. You know, I got us through the toughest pandemic we've seen since such and such. And that narrative he does, big proud Joe, he has to be the hero at the end of this. I don't know how he's going to turn it around.
Yeah.
I hope he turns it around because it is a lot that's going on right now. It's very cloudy right now. But if he changes the narrative to being a hero, I think he'll run again.
Well, let me ask you this. Even changing the narrative, do you think, and this is a concern that Democrats have, not just his number of how old he is, but they're saying his energy level, his mental faculties. You know, one of the things that, if y'all both remember, when President Obama came into office in 2008, he looked young, fresh, and out of, you know what I mean? He looked like he was bouncing around the office.
Black hair.
Black hair, right? When he left, he looks. And look, I would love to have the former president on the show, so I'm not even throwing no shade, but I know that office took a toll on him and on his hair and just on his face. Michelle is looking quite young compared to Barack.
No, black don't crack, Farajii.
Yeah,
you know, black women is what we do.
No, I get that.
It's in our blood.
But I'm just saying that this office, there's no way in the world you can sit in the seat of the United States president, the most powerful seat in the world, and it not take a toll on you.
Absolutely. Especially psychologically.
Yeah, like psychologically, emotionally, in any other type of league that you can think of, that is the hot seat, right? And so, I mean, I think we do have to have a conversation about, you know, President Biden's mental faculties, making sure, and I'm not saying that you know, once you get to 80, you might as well just head on out to pastor. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying, you mean to tell me that with all of the great talent that exists in Washington, in Congress, in any place in this country, that we don't have other options? Lisa,
we have to have people who have the differences that can be made. Like, you just imagine, let's say someone's been in a role or been in a specific area for 80 years. There's a certain mindset that you're going to have, and you're just going to be stuck with whether you want to change it or not. We need leaders who are going to be those game changers. I don't think he should run again, because as far as his mindset into change, like, there has to be a gear shift in change. Being around so long and being a part of politics so long, you keep pushing the same envelope. We need new envelopes, y'all. We need new envelopes.
A new envelope. Lisa, what's your take?
I agree. I mean, when he became the president, I said he was a one-term president, even before any of this stuff happened, because I was like, there's no way in hell that he's going to be running the country at 84. And I'm not being an ageist at all. Like, I believe that I'm not the type of person that believes that just because you're older, you can't run the country. But when you do look at a lot of the presidents, when they started, if you're looking at them physically, all of them took that turn. You look at George W., he did the same thing. Bill Clinton, you see the physical toll that it takes when you have to go all over. And not to mention that I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Joe Biden has been in Delaware a lot. So he spends a lot of time at his home, which I think that with Joe Biden and all the things that have happened, he's not going to say that he's not going to rerun right now. It's too soon. Again, like, after we see what happens with these upcoming elections, of course, I think he'll make that determination. But no president did that. They usually waited. I think Jimmy Carter might have been a little bit earlier on the gun to say he wasn't going to run. But I don't think that Joe Biden will. And I think he's waiting to see what will happen before he does that, so that the Democrats, who are not ready yet with a front runner, there is no front runner in the Democratic Party. Who is
the concern? That's the concern that people have. People like, okay, Joe Biden may not be the strongest candidate, but obviously he's in the office. He understands what it takes to be in the office. He understands government. He understands some of the dynamics and some of the changes in politics. But then the other question is, who else, right? And we can go down a list of political superstars that I think that a lot of people, we can say, oh, Stacey Abrams or this person or that person, right? But I'm talking about who else who's going to garner 70, and we're going to pull up the numbers on this, but I think he had 80 million votes.
Yeah.
In the Trump, 2020 election, 80
and even Trump
million.
Though,
and look, and Trump is not a young man.
75.
No.
75 years old. You know what I'm saying? Like, there have been moments where we've seen Trump, whether he's trying to lift a glass or he's trying to take a slow walk down the ramp or whatever the case may be. So he's not a young man. But I'm just saying that Biden was able to get 80 million votes. Now, by the time we get to the 2024 election, personally, this is personally for me, sisters. Personally, I don't want to see a rematch.
No.
Personally,
I don't either.
I don't want to see a rematch of Biden Trump. I would like to see, because again, I truly believe, not that I'm an ageist, but just simply because I know that there are more talented people that can take this country further along. Now, we could talk about President Biden in his 4 years in office as president, but he got to talk about the fact that he had 8 years in office as vice president, and we got to talk about the fact of his 40 plus years in being in Congress. So his time has been very well spent in public service. So we can't just say, oh no, I mean, he just had 4 years. No, he had 4 years as president. He's been he's gone through the whole chain. I mean, most politicians don't live the life that Joe Biden has lived.
Yeah, to take it that far. I think Hillary Clinton is going to be the default for a Democratic candidate. I really think she's going to be the default person. You don't think she will? I think if Biden really crashes and burns, not literally, but it just looks completely horrible than what it did from the beginning of him getting in office. I think she will get out there and run again. I really think she'll harp on how we've given, 2 other presidents an opportunity to take heed and do the right thing and lead America, and they haven't. So I think the next election will be her best, maybe not best, but a bigger opportunity for her to actually take this, because we've now seen twice. Well, maybe we should have voted for Hillary. I'm not saying that, but that is a narrative that she could ride on.
I mean,
True.
but again, do we, and again, folks, this is not a shade on her, and we did get those numbers. 81.2 million people voted for President Biden for the popular vote. 74.2 million people voted for President Trump, former President Trump. My thing is, the way this country is moving, culturally, politically, socially, economically, are we really ready for some change?
I think
You
so.
think a fresh
and
face is best, Lise?
I think what we're gonna see, I know people have mentioned Stacey Abrams, but I don't think she's ready yet. Stacey Abrams has not been on the high enough platform yet. I think we're gonna see someone, if you want to see fresh blood that has a shot, it's Pete Buttigieg. He is right now, I think he's young. He is an openly gay man. He's a white man, which I think that it's going to be a while. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I think it's going to be a while before you see another person of color actually in the president's seat, which is unfortunate. But I think that we will see someone like him, maybe Gavin Newsom, step up perhaps for the Democratic Party. I think those are the ones that, if you want fresh blood, you want new, you're going to see more going towards them. But I think that it would be beneficial to kind of try someone new. But that's not how Americans vote. We vote on what is familiar to us. Who do we know? What names and faces? Because no one wants to do the research to actually find out, okay, what is this person actually about? What do their policies stand for? And I know that Kamala Harris, technically, if Joe Biden doesn't run, should be the next person in line. But because of the way these last 4 years have gone, I don't think that is going to happen. Her office was in ruins. It was not going well. It was a lot of dysfunction and things that were happening inside of her office. So I do not see her being the next person to actually be the president. Now, I think she will run if Joe Biden doesn't run for re-election, but I don't think she would win. I don't think she's the best.
And I think, leads to your point, I think that is the crazy part about politics, because guess what? If he decides not to run, then they're going to put the emphasis on her. And it's more by default rather than by, hey, I got the qualifications, I got what it takes to take on a big seat. And I don't know, and we can't negate the fact that you got the big elephant in the room. She's a Black woman. By her being a Black woman, are we going to be
not putting no Black woman? Nah, I'm gonna go ahead and kill that. They not putting no Black women in there.
Kamala's 57. Pete Buttigieg is 40 years old. So they're still in that, quote unquote, younger space. But yes, that Black woman stigma.
They got plenty of time. They got till 80.
Look, let me tell you. Look, ladies, I truly believe, like, culturally, we need to break down and we need to really check age boundaries, because across the board in any field of endeavor, whether you're talking about arts and entertainment, whether you're talking about sports, in every field of endeavor, somebody is breaking those barriers right now as we speak. President Biden, the oldest person. Yesterday we talked about Tom Brady. He's 40. He's in his 40s. Jay-Z, he's 50. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, there are constantly, like, we're in that time frame where people are just breaking those barriers of age, of letting their age define who they are and what they do. So I mean, I think Kamala Harris, I don't know if she wants to put herself in a space where she, quote unquote, is the default candidate, because the president says, I'm not going to run. And now the Democratic Party said, well, you've been in there and they know your face, they know your policy, they know how you work, therefore you should run. When there could be some other folks. Now, you said, at least Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, he's doing some really progressive things and still kind of walking the fine line of being not too left and not too right. But yeah, I mean, are we looking at a time where we're looking past white males and saying, okay, let's look at Latinos, let's look at Black folks, let's look at women. I mean, I think that we can get there, but I don't know if we're going to get there in 2024.
I don't think so.
I don't got 2024. Not 2024. It's way too soon. We just got our first female vice president, first female to even get to a presidential seat. Like I don't have it happening. It's too soon. Now, as far as millennials, if we really get out there and vote, including myself, because no, I did not vote. I didn't support either candidate. But if we really get out there and vote how we are supposed to, if we really get out there and put the numbers to it, I definitely think we could see that change. Not 2024, but maybe an election or two after that. I think what's going to be the biggest factor is the fact that a lot of us millennials are now working on owning a home. We're working on bigger assets, and now it's like, okay, we're now involved in the economy. It's now hitting us. Hey, we need help. We do need to vote for a president. Now, again, I'm not the hey, go to the polls kind of person. However, we have to start to change somewhere. Now, I'm all for having our own. Y'all know Black folk, let's have our own. But for now, as far as millennials across the board, we have to get out there in those numbers. Not 2024. I don't think it's going to happen 2024, but after that, yeah, definitely.
So you don't think so? For you, Iman, you don't think that we're going to see a big, revolutionary change in the candidates for president in next, well, in 2 years?
They'll run, yeah. I definitely see we'll have more people wanting to run. We'll have a diverse party of candidates, but to actually get those candidates to the office, I don't have it happening quite yet. I think it'll still be, for now, be a white male.
Okay.
I agree.
Lisa, what you think?
I agree. I think unless the feds, which they're talking about raising rates to get this inflation down, and we really see him kind of clamp down on Russia and this Ukraine thing subsides, maybe if I don't think Joe Biden is going to run, but if Kamala Harris decides she's going to run, she might have a shot. If they're able to really turn this around and showcase to people that, yes, we can get inflation down, we can make sure people have jobs, and they start to really do what America and student loans, which is a big one. If they are able to pass something on student loans, because right now his Department of Education is doing everything they can to not forgive student loans. He's forgiven some, but there are people that are actively in court right now that they are going up against. So I think if they can find a way to do that, perhaps. But I think the reason why I'm saying that I don't think we're going to see it anytime soon is just because of the rhetoric that we're seeing. If someone like Donald J. Trump can become the president of the United States because he spoke to people who wanted to go back to a time of old, which was not good for Hispanic people, Black people, women, LGBTQ community, there's no way that we are going to see that now. I would love to see it, though. I think Kamala Harris, despite a lot of people don't like her, I actually think she is more than qualified. And as a Black woman, I think that's the problem. People demonized her from day one. So I do not think that she's not qualified. I just think that people will not vote for her because she is a Black woman or a woman of color, and that people are not ready for that yet.
Let me just share with you what our watchers have been saying. Dejima Boutique checked in on our YouTube page and says Democratic establishment will try to prop up Pete Buttigieg despite his very problematic politics. Nisa 1971 said America will not elect another person of color. The white lash is real. Forensic accountant checked in and said enough of this 60 is the new fill in the blank talk. I do not need them to raise the Social Security full retirement age again. Facts. How about that? Janae checked in and said, damn, this is the problem. Millennials who bark but can't vote. Yeah, well, if folks can't vote, that's because they're not educated. And if they're not educated, then what do you expect people to do?
And also, if they don't have anything to vote for, then what do you expect them to do? Vote for the lesser evil? I'm tired of that narrative. Vote for the lesser evil. Did that, now what?
Well, see, and that's the other part. Like when you don't vote, you are voting for something.
For someone, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're voting for a cause even when you don't vote, right? Because even if you say, I'm not voting for two of the lesser evil, which I think is the craziest way to describe something as important as voting. Like, vote for the lesser of two evils. Like, why would I do that? Like, this doesn't make sense. Yeah. But we do have to have a conversation that maybe we should not vote, because if we're not getting the promises, the fulfilled promises that candidates are making, I mean, come on, that's like insanity. That's insanity.
But here's my thing on it. I've been voting since I'm a millennial, so I take that to heart. I've been voting since I was 18. Okay, I've been voting since I could vote, and I've voted in every election. And no, I've not always gotten what I wanted, but I feel like in this case, if you don't vote, it still impacts you regardless. You just don't have a say. Yeah, you just don't have a say in it.
At the end of the day, and I know we got to wrap up, but at the end of the day, Black people going to have to make a choice. We're going to have to make a choice where we're saying, okay, if we don't vote, then we're going to have to get ready for whatever comes down the pike for us. But at the same time, still doing some other stuff to put us in a better, stronger political position. I think that we put so much emphasis on voting that we don't think about the other ways that we can become politically empowered. And when you're talking about, to your point, Iman, when you're talking about bringing millennials in, millennials need to see that their actions are going to lead to a specific outcome. Like, okay, if I don't vote, then what will happen? Give people a choice. Show people, you got to tell people, like, okay, fine. If I vote, we know what's going to happen. If I don't vote, then what will happen? You can't just go Armageddon doomsday and be like, if you don't vote, stuff is going to fall down. And
education. You need people to be educated on where their vote goes.
But see, this is the thing. Here's the thing, though, ladies. The thing is, if we keep complaining about what we're not getting from this political system, then guess what? The real revolution is we're going to stop doing the same thing, expecting the different results. That's the real revolution. That's what insanity means. That's what insanity means.
Yeah, don't be crazy.
Doing
the same thing, expecting a different result.
And then be like, well, what?
So here's the thing. I'm gonna leave it alone after this. I'm gonna leave it alone. Can we do both? Can we prepare to do something more and vote at the same time?
Yes!
Because you're still gonna be impacted by it. That's all I'm saying. Can we just do both?
That sounds nice.
That's look. You can do that, because even if you say, okay, I'm gonna vote for somebody in a presidential election, doesn't mean you got to abstain from your vote from the local election, from the state election, because those elections really matter.
You
feel what I'm saying?
We 100% should vote.
No, that's what I'm saying. You got to get involved, but either way, you still need to set up a plan B, and that's the problem. What is the plan B for Black America politically?
Yeah,
it can't just be, oh, you don't vote for this group or that group, and therefore you out of luck. Look, I gotta take a quick pause because y'all getting me too excited. But I see the people in the chat, they're like, oh man, but what about then what's our plan B? We can vote I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, but you gotta have a plan B for Black people. It can't just be putting all your eggs in one party's basket. That day is over with. We gotta have a plan B. Folks, I gotta take a quick pause. When we come back, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about how the Black population is growing, and their Black folks are leaving big cities, going to small cities. My question is, are small cities the key to social and racial justice? We'll have that conversation up next. And of course, we got a whole lot more for you in the second hour. So stay with us. It's The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
There we go. Welcome back to the show, folks. We had an exciting first hour here on The Culture as we talked to Dr. Crystal Watkins, so talking about, how to deal with this third chapter, this third year of the pandemic, and a very lively conversation talking about the new Wall Street Journal poll about whether President Biden should run again, where half of Americans are saying they doubt it, even though the president and his administration is saying we're getting ready. So we will have to see. And certainly, as you know, this is a midterm election year. So we're going to have much, much more conversations about that situation, about that issue. All right, but we want to switch gears because we also are seeing some growth in within the country. Now, if you have not noticed, a lot of Black people are leaving the big cities, New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, and going to smaller cities, folks. And this might be you. This might be you and your family. You might have left some big metropolitan urban hub and decided that, you know what, I'm going to go to a smaller city. I'm going to move down south. I'm going to leave Atlanta and maybe go to Savannah or someplace smaller, because you find that life can be a little bit simpler, more manageable, and it might just fit your politics. Well, you won't be the only one. According to the recent reports, the largest African-American population growth in pure numbers, folks, over the past decade is out. It shows that Black people are leaving big cities and they're going to smaller, less congested cities such as Fort Worth, Columbus, Ohio, Jacksonville, Florida, and Charlotte, North Carolina. Over the 10-year period, each gained between 32,000 and 40,000 new Black residents from 2010 to 2020, according to the latest census figures. And my question, as I go back to my culture crew, we're joined by Lise Winnie, host of Millennial Anonymous podcast, and Iman Heath, who is an entrepreneur and activist. Ladies, my question about this migration, because there was a huge migration years ago to the big cities from the small cities. Now we're seeing another level of migration from the big cities back to the small cities. But my question is, can this be the key for Black people in particular and for marginalized communities in general to gain some level of social and racial justice in smaller cities that we may not have seen in large cities? That's my question. Can we get a little bit more out of smaller cities and make more gains out of smaller cities than large cities? Lise, what's your take on that?
I think that with Black people moving into less developed areas, do I think that it'll help with social justice? It could. Depending on how many of Black people move into the area and actually get acclimated and actually get involved in the community from a higher level and instead of just living there. I think from a standpoint of individual Black wealth, I think that it can help a lot, because if you look at where like people are moving from, they're the most expensive places in the world. New York, California, they're just expensive to live. And one of the things with the wealth gap, the $70,000 that white people have typically per their families based, instead of Black people, it shows. It buys white people convenience. You can live near all of these things and still be able to buy that house, where Black people don't have that. They can't build that same level of equity. Now, if you're able to move out of those big cities, you're able to purchase a home and actually build equity. So you can purchase that home cheaper and perhaps build up that community to build equity in it. So I think that this is an opportunity for Black people to actually build some wealth. As far as building social equity or social justice, it's going to depend on how active they are in those communities. But I think it is definitely an opportunity, at least a step in the right direction. It's expensive out here in these streets. You shouldn't have to buy Cleo heels to pay your mortgage. But it's just, this is, unless you want to. I mean, I'm not, no judgment, but it's ridiculous.
I definitely agree with Lise. It definitely depends on the numbers and the activity of that area as far as Black people. I watched the Netflix special called High on the Hog, and I saw how a lot of Black people did migrate in small towns in South Carolina, and a lot of it that they expressed was the reason for staying is culture. So I say if we spread I would call it the Black assets that get that cultural change moving, it could make a difference, but it's all in the numbers. All in the numbers. Wealth gap, I think it definitely will help, absolutely, because there's not such a big competition pool, if that makes sense. If you have 10 houses on the block, 5 of them make bread and the other 5 make jam, you have a even odds as to which way to go. But if you are in an area where there's maybe one, I don't know, barbecue chicken place, and you open up 2, you have a high, your revenue may be higher than what your cost is, but it all depends on the numbers.
So you're saying that, and from making sure I understand, Iman, you're saying that it may be possible that we could get some level of equity and justice in some of these smaller spaces because it's less people.
Absolutely. It's because it's less minorities. There's less people. There's not such a bigger pool to choose from or have to fight for, or give me that piece of a crumb and that piece of a crumb. Where there are less people, you have less of those situations where you can't flourish, or there's a limit to how far you can go. So versus a rural place where you can pick a road and start building.
Right. And for you, Lise, you're saying that the big challenges, the economic challenges, the quality of life challenges that we face, that becomes less once you're in a smaller city, and you can do more. You can find yourself making greater gains and progress.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. That's what I mean. Like being able to build that equity because when you're building out a community, of course, it's a little cheaper because you have to deal with the inconvenience of being around nothing, but you are able to build those communities up and build equity. Now, you did mention something, and I didn't think of this at the time, but it does take some sacrifice. If you are going to move out that far, you're going to have to, sometimes that means you're commuting to work a lot longer distance, or you may not get paid as much when you live in those, communities that are further out or more rural. So that does bring in a good point as well with Black people and what they're willing to sacrifice in order to make those gains.
I mean, and I think, and I, the reason that I'm posing this question, ladies, is just simply because I thought about it, and I said, when you look at a place like Baltimore is, is a relatively small city compared to some of your major cities, right? We have less than 600,000 people that actually live in the city. We have more people that live in Baltimore County on the outskirts, outside of the city, than actually live in the city. So there is more, I would say there's a greater opportunity for you to connect, to get to know who your mayor is, to get to know your city council person, to get to know who your state senators are and your representatives, to get to know who your police commissioner are, to get a better understanding of the dynamics of power and the issues, and I think that when you're talking about some of those major cities, stuff is so entrenched and been happening for so long, and it just becomes overwhelming. And from a social and equity, from a justice and equity standpoint, it's about making small gains. That's something I've always learned, Iman, as an activist and as an organizer. You go for the low-hanging fruit first to build up the confidence of the people, and then you just keep going. And next thing you know, you're attacking the big problem.
Now, here's the big question, though, because Lise, when she said it, light bulb. We have to be comfortable with being inconvenient, but who's comfortable with being inconvenient? I'm sure if more of us was okay with being uncomfortable, which most of us aren't, and I can say I'm one of them. I'm a Taurus, fixed sign, I'm Earth. If it's not broke, don't fix it, okay? If it's not broke, don't fix it.
I'm a Taurus too, so I understand. I feel you.
Yeah. if it's safe, if it feels good, don't move it, don't change it. But we have to be able to get outside of our comfort zone, because I can say now, my mind is growing, but I could not see me personally living in a southern, just rural country. Is the next McDonald's is 35 miles down the road. I couldn't imagine. So even for myself, learn to be uncomfortable. But that's the biggest thing. We got to be uncomfortable. I'm sure more of us will move if it didn't cause us to be uncomfortable.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. And especially like when you're migrating, and they call this reverse migrating, Lise, but when you're migrating from the hustle and bustle of any major, urban center, right? And then versus there's still a little hustle, might be a less bustle, and there's a lot more green space. Mentally, that does something. And I think that's why a lot of Black folks have, and we've seen this reverse migration happening towards the South. I want to share some of the data from the census bureaus around this. Check this out, folks, that according to the 2020 census, African Americans make up 14% of the U.S. population. We're still very low. We actually have more Hispanics have more people in the country than we are. But 58% of us who live in the South. Those figures can vary slightly because the Census Bureau reported last week that 3.3% of the Black population was undercounted in the 2020 census, a rate higher than in 2010. But we're still seeing a lot of people who are kind of coming back, Lise, to this place of, we ran out the South. We didn't want to do nothing dealing with no land, no farming, damn sure no sharecropping, right? We ran out the South. Now look at us. We coming home. We coming back to the South, right? And I always want to say, well, why are people so drawn to the South? And not just talking about the big cities of Houston, because people live in Houston and those big cities, Atlanta, but people are going to places like Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
People are going to places in like Little Rock.
I have mental trauma.
You know what I'm saying? Well, for that. And I'm just right. But they say Birmingham is a changing, growing city. So my point is, Lise, that when you see in this migration happening, and people are coming back home, I'm thinking that something great can come out of this reverse migration. I'm thinking that we could possibly start doing some work on the social, on the justice and equity side to bring some change.
I think you're right. I think that there is some opportunity there because, again, when you think of Birmingham, you think of, Little Rock, Arkansas, you think of, oh my goodness, burning crosses in the grass. Like, that's what you think of when you think of those places, especially when you live in a major city or you live on the outskirts on the east where Black people migrated. We went north. Because of course, with the end of slavery, there were no jobs, and I think that's one of the reasons why slavery ended, because of the industrialization. But we'll get to that in another
talk about it, Lise.
But I think that there is an opportunity there, because if you go out in those places, what are there? They're very rural white people. For the first time, these people are going to have to actually talk to a Black. Some of these people have never even seen a Black person, let alone now they are connecting with. And I think that's how we break down some of these things, where you actually are starting to move into those places where they said you can't live here. Now, it is unfortunate, and we do still need to look at, well, why are Black people moving out? It's because I think Black people also want peace. It's a lot of crime in these urban centers, and they don't want to deal with the crime anymore. So they're moving out. That's one, like you talk about Baltimore. The mass exodus from Baltimore happened when crime started to rise. Crime started to rise and taxes started to rise at the same time. Like, how that work? Like, come on now, I'm paying for what?
Make it make sense. Make it make sense.
They moved because of that. So I think that a lot of Black people want to live in peace. They deserve happiness just like the next person. So being able to afford it, and these, the cost of living is getting higher, and they're pricing out. Look what's happening in Baltimore. They're pricing Black people out. Black people are moving to the counties, and they're fixing up the city. Now it's more expensive to live there. So it's almost like a gate that they're putting around the city. And that's what you're seeing in a lot of these urban centers. So I think you're right. We do have an opportunity to build the communities up in these rural areas and actually build some bridges where they weren't, from people that have maybe never seen Black people or never talked to Black people, and have the same economic strifes that we do. Poor white people share a lot of the similarities that poor Black people do.
And Lise and Iman, let's not forget I think one of the big incentives for moving into those rural places, which is the opportunity to own some land. Like, no people can be considered an independent people until their minds are right and they got land.
Like you said, moving to those rural places, we could change our focus.
Look, if you move into a rural place, right? And I haven't bought property like land or anything like farmland or anything, but imagine if you really buy 1 or 2 acres of land, right? That does something to you mentally. That just does something to you mentally, to be able to say, wait a minute, I got good fertile soil in my backyard where literally I can start growing my own food, or I can take from the earth what I need to take to start to sustain myself. I can create a business just simply off the land, the way the land should be used, right? And it's like that automatically puts you in a space where you're not just a consumer, you're a producer.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think that is another incentive. I mean, look, and I know a couple of folks are going into the chat and they're saying, look, forensic accountant said, I bought some land near Native Americans who mind their own business.
Oh, Lord.
Chris Drew said, bought my land in the South. That's one of the big benefits of moving down the South. Like, if I was to move down South, I'm trying to figure out, okay, my home may be one place, but where the land at? I need to buy me some land, because in this day and time, land never goes out of value.
Not at all.
The dollar bill will. The dollar bill will. But when you got that land, and if you have a nice piece of land for you and your family, you can eat.
That's where Black people can start. That's where we can start as a community. Like, we can take over the agricultural world. Now, we can buy land, buy an acre and a half, and really learn how to farm that land. And we could take over that industry, produce our own, buy within our own, or trade services within our own, hire our own, teach our own. This is something that can go on for generations. This can be a start of building generational wealth. This could be the start of finally closing that wealth gap that we have against our counterparts. So Farajii, make a great point. We got to get back to wanting to get our hands dirty. Some of us are too scared of spiders and worms and whatnot to even think about getting a pair of jeans dirty.
to give people credit, though, I think, and this might be the thing, I think that people, I think that we have been so damaged because of slavery that we don't want nothing to do with nothing about cultivating no damn land, man. Like we at this point, and I mean, I think that's a generational thing where our great grandparents and they understood, like, even though we went through that horrific experience of slavery, they understood that land was the real key. Just like education, land ownership is everything, right? But I think for us in our age group, and not saying us specifically, but in our age group, we don't have any true reference. We don't understand the value of that time of that time of our history.
I
like
agree.
we just don't see it. We think owning land is a damn backyard. When you clog, you squished in among all these other row homes and stuff, and we like the backyard is our land, and that could be, but there's nothing like it. If you've never been on a farm, or if you've never been on a space where you go out and all you see is just corn stalks or just grass, as far as the eyes can see, you just see grass, and then somebody says your great grandfather owned all of that. And you like, I mean, that does something to your mind and your spirit, because you realize that you feel a sense of pride and power because you got a piece of the earth.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think there should be more education though into it, because I think it's amazing and that's great to own land, but a lot of people don't know that a lot of farmers and Black people who had farms left because it's hard work. It's not easy to manage land, and it's not cheap. It is very expensive to get land zoned. That is a lengthy, long process to get your land zoned. Don't do it. And it's expensive to maintain. And so when they had the farms, a lot of people moved because it's hard work, it's expensive. And so they moved to the cities where it was a little bit easier. I think with younger people, maybe giving more of that education about the benefit of owning land, and not just, figuring out what type of land you have and what you can put on the land. And it's a lot of different things that go into it. So I think we should maybe do more education about what it means to own land and land ownership and where the wealth actually comes from. It's not just holding land is where the money comes from, but actually explaining where the money comes from and the benefit of actually holding that land. So hopefully maybe in schools we can teach something about or wealth.
Or just at least
even in school no more.
At least they ain't gonna teach you that in the school. True. I mean, you know what? Grandfather, grandma, auntie, somebody just got to take you out there. Like nothing, like you can't teach about that. Just like if you take a 7-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old Black boy or Black girl and take them down south, right? Because some of us have had summers like that. Like we every summer we were brought down to the country, right, where our grandparents were, and they had us doing farm work, they had us doing land work, they had us doing all that type of stuff. And at the time we were like, man, I don't feel like doing this. But as older men, older women, as more conscious people, now we understand the value of it. It don't need to be taught in school, just in the sense of, just if it's not taught in your child's school, your grandchild or your niece or nephew's school, then you take the responsibility of teaching for yourself. But one of the things that I think we need to, and this is, I gotta have a conversation about this, Iman. The fact that a lot of our Black farmers today are struggling because even though President Biden had allocated that $5 billion, remember that? He had set aside $5 billion for Black farmers in this country, and everybody was getting upset, like, that's so racist, blah, blah, blah. Do you know that they still haven't have access to that money? That money has not trickled down to our farmers yet.
I'm not.
And see, that's the thing. Like, this is why we do need some level of representation down in the rural areas. I'm not mad at any Black person that moves in those spaces, because just like the census, that representation is important, because we need to strengthen our voice for those Black farmers and those other folks that don't have voices. Iman, what's your take?
I definitely agree. Having that support, it matters most. And a lot of Black farmers that I've learned, they don't have the help. They really don't have the hands. It's not enough hands to be able to manage those daily tasks. Cause it is a sun up and sundown type of thing. You really have to make your own weekends or try to make your own work days. But if we were more hands-on and they had more support as far as people wanting to, sometimes even with education, maybe, and this is a long stretch, volunteer to maybe, I don't know, brush a horse or water the corn or something. Just start there. That small amount of education, that can be the seed to something, like you said, a child, rather than wanting to play basketball like LeBron. He may want to start a farm for his whole family to live on. So I think, yeah, we got to get more hands on.
Yeah, I like that.
But that's a change in mindset, though, right? Because
Right.
we need to define in this country, what does it mean to be successful? Because when we talk about success, we see LeBron James, you see big cars, you see big houses. You don't see owning land. That's not what success looks like. So I think that's a question, a good point that, Amon makes. Like, what does it really mean to be successful in this country?
Yeah, because the last time I checked, when somebody say, what do you want to be successful? Nobody said, I want to be a farmer.
Right.
Yeah, no.
Right.
Nobody says that.
Heard it.
But
Right.
the farmer, look, the farmer is more rich than the basketball player.
That is true. It can grow
The farmer will never starve. The farmer has literally take like the money that a farmer can get from the land, from milking a cow and having that skill set is more long lasting than a basketball player who's just in ignorance.
That land is forever.
Land and the farmer, if you treat the land like, it's like with the Native American culture, they understood it. And even our people, we understood it, that if you treat Mother Nature right, Mother Nature is going to treat you right. That's all.
If you treat it like it's an actual energy and spirit, like it's a think of it as an actual person, even though it isn't. Take care of it, and it'll take care of you every single time. What you put into it is exactly what you're going to get out. I'm not saying you can avoid droughts at all costs. I'm not saying you'll have some type of termites or bugs sometimes trying to eat your plants. But if you really tap into and get back into our spirituality, I'm not saying anything wrong with religion. I would hate for anyone to think I'm going there. I'm just saying, if you connect spiritually, tap back into our roots. We were the ones enslaved slavery. We were the ones grooming the farmland.
Yeah,
it's in us. We just got to tap back into our spirituality.
Absolutely. Look, I'm happy to see folks are moving, making this reverse migration. But ladies, I hope that it does lead to some sustainable change. That's all I'm happy. That's what I'm hoping for. We have some sustainable change with this migration and, new wages, better living conditions, getting support for our Black farmers. It just needs to lead to something else. I think it can. We just have to have the vision and have the ability to see it. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come right back, I had to keep one conversation specifically for today's panel. I got to ask them about Kim Kardashian's take on getting up and go to work. Their whole take on this. We got to talk about that. Plus, we got trends, posts, and doing the most. So stay with us, folks. We still got a lot to get to in the final 30 of the culture right here on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all. All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Oh boy, this is going to be a great conversation as we talk about some of the things that gotten under people's skin. Folks, I'm talking about Kim Kardashian. And Kim often gets into the media for a lot of different things, but for this time, she may have put her foot in her mouth when she and her sisters recently appeared on the latest cover of Variety magazine ahead of their premiere of their new Hulu show. Kim had some advice to give women in business, or those women who say they want to be in business but haven't made that reality true. Shayla, can we play that video of what Kim Kardashian said? We're going to get that video in a few moments. Look, but one of the big things that came from that, and bringing back my culture crew, we got Iman Heath, Lise Winnie. Ladies, Kim said, get your effing ass up and work. First
this is coming from a woman.
Firstly, no, hold on. Both of y'all had the same look on your face. You were like, let me at him. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Listen.
Back.
That's all she had to say. Her husband gave her. I saw an interview. She said that some Instagram people sent her an offer for $1 million to make a post about their product, something like that, about Kanye shoes, right? Right. And she says that she asked Kanye about it. He said, no, don't do it. She's like, well, it's a lot of money. I think like $1 million, something like that. And he like, don't do it. So then he later, I think like a day later, sends her a check. Her husband sent her a check for $1 million and I believe a contract to own a percentage of Yeezys, his shoes. So let me ask the viewers, can your husband write you a $1 million check for anything? So Kim isn't even in the same bubble of perspective to even give a thought on what she think we need to do. Sis, you have y'all seen her pantry? Her pantry look like a market. Kim can't say nothing to me. Kim can't talk to me. Go ahead, Lise. She can't talk to me. She can't. Mm-mm.
Yes, Kimberly Noel Kardashian. my fellow Libra and mom and victim of low-rise jeans back in the 2000s. Listen, I think Kim Kardashian, she is in a different world. And I can't knock her and fault her for it because we as the general public put her on a goddamn pedestal. And so now she believes that she is what we said she was. And I'm not saying that Kim doesn't work hard. I can't say that because she was able
works
to
hard.
take...
I mean, she gets up 4:30 in the morning. She does the workout. She does the whole thing. So
yes.
I'm sorry. Hold on, Lise. Pause real quick. Farajii, what hard work does she do again? Say it again. You said
I mean, she does. Look. I know that she has a number of brands. Of course, we know that her television show, and she's always seems to be looking for the next big opportunity, the next big thing, right? But you can't say, like, and I know a lot of people believe. I'm not gonna say a lot, but I know some people believe that rich people or famous people don't work hard, and actually, that's not true. Okay. They had to work hard to get to the place that they got to. But
Kim Kardashian got put on Farajii.
Look, trust and believe. Yes, I know. Her father, Robert Kardashian, Mr. Lawyer for O.J. Simpson.
And let's not forget Ray J.
She has grown up in a very privileged space.
Right.
So we all understand that. But let me just say this. Because just as much as I said what I said about rich people or famous people, they did work hard to get to that place, right? But nobody works harder in this country. And I'm going to say this very bluntly. Nobody works harder in this country like poor people.
Agreed. That is a fact. But when I'd say with Kim Kardashian, she was, because her mother and her was able to take that, we'll call it adult leisure tape, flip it like they were cutting some type of product and make them into their whole family into celebrity. So they worked very, very hard in order to bring her from where she was. People didn't take Kim Kardashian seriously. Now, she was given grace because she was white. Has she been a black woman? Honestly, I do not think she would be where she was today if that was how she actually started. But I will say that Kim Kardashian probably does work hard, but she started at a different place in the race. So what we can't do is that every rich person didn't work hard to get. Sometimes they were afforded, and you are privileged or lucky to be where you are. We can't take away from the fact that some people just are lucky. Now, I think that she does work and she works hard. But what she fails to realize is that every woman is not in the same position that she's in. And I think that what she was saying, I think it's the wrong messenger, maybe the wrong tone, but I don't think that Kim Kardashian, what she said was 100% wrong. I think she was talking to the wrong people. So she's talking to the people that are like on Instagram and think, oh, you just post this picture on Instagram and then you'll be famous. Like that's, I think, who she's talking to. I do not think she would have the gall to sit here and talk to women out here that are actually working. They get paid less. We have the woman tax. Everything that has woman on it, you pay more for. We don't get paid the same amount as men. We're working hard. We take the hit because most women have the babies and have to take off work. I do not think she would make that. Maybe she could make that statement, that very asinine statement, but I don't think she was talking to all women. I think she was talking to those women that think that Instagram is an easy route. That's what I think.
You know what? And I'm not going to disagree with you there, because I think that is another cultural point that we have to address, that social media, that some people are making a lot of money off of social media, and then some people are just using social media very lazily, in a very lazy way, excuse me. But let me just play this video so folks can hear for themselves what Kim Kardashian had to say about women and working and owning a business. Check this out.
The best advice for women in business: get your fucking ass up and work. It seems like nobody wants to work these days.
That's so true.
You have to surround yourself with people that want to work. Have a good work environment where everyone loves what they do, because you have one life. No toxic work environments, and show up and do the work.
Now that was idiotic.
No, wait a minute. Hold up. No.
The end of it was idiotic about the toxic workplace, but
I'm talking about before that. I'm talking about before that. Some people, she said, you have to surround yourself with people who want to work. You're trying to build an empire, and these dudes are just trying to build a sandwich. I think that's advice I've heard from people for many years, like any type of success coach and all that. You have to get around people. That's one of, I mean, yes, the tone is like get up, but we said it to ourselves. Like, if at least Iman, y'all know it. You know, you probably got a homegirl that claiming that she wants to do all of these things, but then at the same time, you be like, girl, you gonna work in? Girl, I'm trying to go out this weekend. What about you? What about your situation? I thought you got your business, girl. I mean, I just post something on Instagram. You be like, no, get your ass up. Get your
do it.
What? I don't think. I mean, the tone might be people like, oh, the tone, but it's like, well, people don't work. People don't want to work.
I mean, I think with Kim Kardashian, like I said, I think she was talking to a specific group of women that are in her lane. Like, I think she was talking about those women in her lane. But when she talks about a toxic work environment, you don't control that necessarily. If you're going into a male-driven field, like let's say you're in tech and you're a Black woman in tech, and I've heard those stories of Black women in tech and even Black men in tech, where you walk in a room and they don't take you seriously because they look at you, oh, you're Black. And the white people and people like of Asian descent usually are in tech, and they will discriminate, not even hiring Black people because they don't think they can do the job well. You can't control that. So I think in that sense that Kim Kardashian is just tone deaf because she's white and she's pretty, and those things afford her people to want to follow in her footsteps and do what she does and open doors for her, because those are things that a lot of other people don't have. But I agree, her tone is off, her tone is harsh, but I don't think she's talking to all women. I don't agree. If she is talking to all women, Kim Kardashian needs to sit.
I don't think she's talking to all women because all women, Iman, I think that all women are not in that place where they have to be told to get up and work. I think for both of you sisters, for example, you already have that drive to want to get up and work. Nobody has to tell you that. I think that for some people, for some women, again, we live in an Instagram culture. People want to open up Instagram businesses versus wanting to open up a legitimate business, getting your tax ID number, going through that process. That's the hard work, behind the scenes work that I think that a lot of people either don't know or they just choose not to know. And so they say, I'm gonna go on social media and I'm gonna start my whatever little situation you got going on, selling stuff, providing the service, whatever the situation is. And I always push back on that. I see Black men doing the same thing. It's like, if you want to open up your own garage, then start the process of saving your money, looking at places that you can start your garage. Don't just put a post on there, yo, I do brakes.
I'll pull up on you. $45.
Right.
Wait, what?
I mean, come on, man. That shit is mad lazy, man.
Yeah. We gotta start taking those proper channels to actually obtain what we want. To say, oh, I want to work here and do this and start that. We have to actually start with one, like you said, Farajii, saving our money. You don't gotta go to Select and get a section and buy Moet for $200 every weekend if you're trying to have a successful business. No, I definitely agree with that, Farajii.
Real close, Iman. You had to get real close.
I need you to understand what I'm saying. We gotta fix our priorities. Like, even myself with leaving my job in June, I had to learn. I had to sit down for a little bit, maybe a lot of a little bit, to be able to actually get to where I want and grow to what I want to be. But we have to have those priorities. But we want to buy Balenciaga sneakers and whatnot, and
but everybody, no, some people can't even buy that though, Iman. Some people, it's just about we don't know what, when you're talking about being in this place in a successful space, and this is something that I've heard from millionaires, billionaires, and all types of people, right? Success requires something. It requires sacrifice. It requires a change in your thinking, a change in your behavior. It requires something. We want success on our terms. And if it was that easy, we will all be millionaires. But in every endeavor, in every in every industry that you and I may want to be successful in, it requires something. Like, I've given time, just in using myself for example. I've given a lot of my time, done media work for 20 years, lost jobs, can't keep, stuff is just happening, right? But it requires something, because success only wants to know, how bad do you want me?
Ooh, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
How bad do
That
you want me?
it.
How much do you willing to give? Now, I'm not talking about losing your moral compass. I'm just simply saying, if it requires you to wake up at 5 a.m. to reach that goal for the day, then success asks, are you going to wake up at 5 a.m.?
That's it.
Yeah,
it.
but people want that
Twister.
We want success on our terms, and
they want that
Twister
success, that overnight celebrity. That's
what
people
want.
It never works. That's what they want. But
they want to go
absolutely
viral
right.
on Instagram and think that's it. Well, I'm gonna go viral real quick. Let me get a blue check, and I'm gonna get paid thousands and thousands to post a picture on Instagram. Listen, first of all, to even catch on to that algorithm, that's a new thing that I've been learning how to deal with since about October. It takes a lot more, and I'll give Kim Kardashian the benefit of the doubt. She may have been talking to those Instagrammers who think, if I just post a picture, I'll get paid. It does take more than that. But like you said, Farajii, we gotta change the mindset and sacrifice. Sacrifice takes. You have to be uncomfortable. Sacrifice is going to make you uncomfortable, and we just got to get to that point of being fed up with, I don't know, the same mundane routine we have to achieve our goals.
Look, you can't. Like you can't get to the next level. You can't get to the next level and be the same person. You just can't.
I think Bevy Smith said it though. I don't think that people like Kim Kardashian should be telling people what they should be doing.
Facts.
Like you sit from a standpoint of, you've been given privilege your entire life. Like everything that you've, even being in fashion, Kanye West gave the opportunity. Yes, she worked, but he's the one that really gave her the opportunity, and she helped him. So it was like a vice versa thing. But it wasn't just like you sat there and you worked all the way from the bottom. Like you were already in these circles. And somebody said something to me that I will never forget when we talk about success, because success looks different for everybody. It does not matter how much you work unless you network. And it is not about who you know, it's who knows you and who is going to mention your name when you are not in that room. Right. That is the difference. It's the network. And she was born with that. So I think that people like Kim Kardashian should probably, because everybody can't be rich.
She was born with it. Yes.
Here's the thing. Just as much as she was born with it, she's speaking from a place of definitely privilege, right? The thing that Black people, we have to overcome is the inferiority complex. So just as much as we say, oh, she's born with it, or she had all of these things, but then we can't fall into a place and say, well, the system won't allow us to do this, or I'm not given the opportunity to do that. You know what I mean? Yeah. We have to overcome our mental and mental disease of seeing ourselves as being inferior. Yes, let me tell you something. We all know, this is 2022, folks. We all know what the system has done. We know what white people have done. We know what the damage of white supremacy. But why does that continue to be the great challenge for us when we know that at the same time, quote unquote, we also know that we're the most resilient people in this country? We've undergone some of the greatest trauma that any human beings have ever undergone, and we've come out of that still producing, still excelling, still showing our greatness. So you know what I mean? Yes, like our grandparents went through worse with little education, no resources, and they were able to put our parents through college with little money.
Very true.
But we got all this other stuff, and we can't get out the damn bed. Right?
That is true. That is true. One day we got to talk about capitalism, though.
Grandparents' face. When you talk to our great grandfathers and mothers, the racism was there. The KKK was present. They knew. They had all types of factors. And you mean to tell me that we can't get past some of these systemic issues? We don't have what it takes to get past some of these systemic issues. I'm tired of that. I'm tired of that, because I know we could do much better. I know we can get further along. I'm just tired of making excuses for our inferiority in the social space. We're not inferior people, but we've been made inferior because of the condition that we're in. And I'm tired of the excuses.
Agreed. And one day we'll talk about capitalism because that plays a big role in this
Huge
too.
big role.
We'll talk
Right.
about
Huge
it.
big role. All right, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, Trends Post and Doing the Most. Stay with us, folks. It's the Culture on Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, it's time now for Trends Post and Doing the Most, where we tell you about what's happening on social media. Yes. All right, real quick, folks, we got a couple of stories, Iman and Lisa, that I want to bring to the forefront. Couture Huron. She is a justice advocate, and she was a major justice advocate in the Breonna Taylor case. She has just been chosen as to be USA Today's Woman of the Year. I want to give her a big round of applause for that. She is a former lobbyist with the ACLU of Kentucky, and she is now the state of Kentucky's first openly LGBTQ state representative. How about that? So she is part of the Women of the Year series. She was integral to getting the no-knock warrants banned in the city of Louisville, Kentucky, following the killing of 26-year-old Breonna Taylor. And she was also making sure that she was also elected to the Kentucky's House of Representatives by special election in February, and that she joined the ACLU in 2019, where she focused mostly on legislation around juvenile justice. But she said her path shifted when Breonna Taylor was killed. I want to throw this quote from her up on here. She said, "I think the system we have today does not work. It has never worked. I don't think it's going to work, but I also know and understand that we can't today just say completely tear it down. What are the alternatives? How do we create a society in which we don't even need this type of carceral system?" Ladies, what's your thoughts on that?
Her for president. She can be the Black people candidate for me. I love her mindset and her viewpoint of where she's at. That's exactly what we need.
That's exactly what you need. Lise, what you think?
I mean, I support her 100%. I think she's an amazing person. I honestly think that she's absolutely right. Like, you can't completely, like, what are the alternatives? You can't just completely tear it down. Now, I think it's a little bit, can we live in a perfect world? I don't think so. But I do like people that at least try to achieve it.
Here's what I love about people like Katora and others who ask those questions. You start from the place of seeing things the way they are versus starting from a place of somewhere on Mount High somewhere. I'm covering up my own sign. There we go. You know what I mean? You start from where you are then versus just start from reality and then work out the vision. So I love that. So big shout out to Katora Heron. Thank you so much, sis, for the work that you're doing. And of course, we know the Breonna Taylor situation is still ongoing, as there have now been a call for someone to take responsibility for the killing of our dear beloved sister. All right, very quickly, Ben Crump. Mr. Ben Crump, who is the civil rights trial lawyer, nationally recognized. Well, apparently, folks, his profile is going to get even bigger as he is developing a legal series based on his own life. How about that? According to the reports, the legal series is titled Stokes, and the docuseries will follow Crump and his associates as they travel the country fighting to change the problems within the justice system. He's teaming up with House of Lies creator Matthew Carnahan and Nadia Hallgren, who directed Michelle Obama's Becoming documentary. Have y'all seen that?
I have not watched it.
Y'all haven't seen that one?
Mm-mm.
It's dope. It's really a good documentary. I really enjoyed it. Me and Nara watched it. Very, very good documentary. Very inspiring. But it's interesting that we see Mr. Ben Crump now talking about having his own docu-series called Stokes. It's interesting to see how you can start from one place in this country and then you could literally can go into a whole nother space. It's
what
like,
really
what?
Popped in my head when you said that was, who is going to control it? Like, if there are people who are funding it, maybe providing some type of monetary resource for them, if they are, what are they going to edit, not say, or say? Like, is he going to have complete control over how it's produced, or are you going to give us the raw and the real, or it's going to be edited? 'Cause I believe, like, the Kanye documentary, it was a lot that he said that whoever produced, I'm sorry, I can't remember, didn't want the image of Kanye to be, or it was edited. It wasn't the complete raw thing. I just want the raw message. I hope we get the raw message.
Yeah, I hope so too. But I know it's going to have some inspirational moments. They're not going to shine a light on Ben Crump in a way that's disparaging, of course not. But they're going to show him as being the civil rights lawyer, the civil rights attorney of our time. And if you don't remember if you don't know who Ben Crump is, it's kind of hard not to know. But he represented the families of Trayvon Martin, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd. Just again, but see, let me just say this, and I know some people might have a problem with Ben Crump, but his job, he said it, and I must keep saying it for him again. He said his job is to break the banks of the institutions that break our necks.
Period. Drops mic.
I'm not a. I'm.
You're not a fan? It's cool.
I'm no comment. No comment.
No comment.
Leave it to me.
Look. Hey, Lise, I welcome diversity. If you're not a fan, it's fine. It is, but I welcome diversity. But what you want to say, just very quick. You got 30 seconds, please.
I'm not a fan of it. To me, this just shows monetization of human life. It almost seems like you're using it as a pawn. I don't like this at all from the standpoint of this. If you really are doing this for the good of our people, then do it for the good of our people. And you don't need a spotlight in order to do that. That's my 30 seconds.
There it is. Well, we will see how things end up with that situation of his new series, Stokes. Breaking news just came across the wire. Shalonda Young becomes the first Black woman to leave the White House budget office after the Senate confirmed her with bipartisan support. So we're going to take a look at that situation.
Right.
First Black woman to leave the budget office. Damn, we're still making first in 2022.
Yeah, strong J. It's sad.
Yeah,
strong J.
Yeah. It's gonna be 2050. Yeah.
20.
Yeah.
Still making first. All right, sisters. I appreciate y'all time. Iman Heath, activist and entrepreneur. Lise Winnie, host of Millennials Anonymous podcast. Thank you so much for having such a great conversation with me today here on The Culture. Thank you so much for being so good for the culture, ladies.
No problem.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. I thank each and every one of you for being a part of the conversation just as much as we have been a part of it. And I hope you enjoyed it just as much as we have. Thank you for tuning in to YouTube, Facebook, and any other platform. But most importantly, we hope that you're not just tuning in, but we hope that you're actually supporting us. So if you have not had a chance to support Black Star Network and all of the great programming that we bring to you each and every day and during the week, this is your opportunity to do so. You can go to blackstarnetwork.com, support the Black Star Network, support Black-owned media like never before, and your donations certainly will matter because we're looking to continue to expand and to deepen our impact with you and putting out our stories and telling our narratives. Again, blackstarnetwork.com. Stay tuned. Up next is my big brother Roland Martin with Roland Martin Unfiltered at the 6 o'clock hour. I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll chat tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Peace.